Hello all, welcome to DT Cases. In this session, we are going to discuss about what is the new changes being added into the .NET 8 Blazor template. So, in a previous sessions, I have created using .NET 6 the entire video tutorial. What is Blazor and what is the features of Blazor templates and how to create a Blazor server app or Blazor WebAssembly app. What is the advantages of using server and WebAssembly apps? In this session, we will mainly focus on that how we can able to create a server side or client application using the .NET 8 template. So earlier before .NET 8, you will find the two templates called the Blazor server app, Blazor WebAssembly app, two templates. But in .NET 8, they have introduced a new template called Blazor web app, which will be supports for both server-side rendering and client interactivity as well. So I'll just choose this Blazor web app and click next button and demo session. And here you can able to choose .NET 8, and here there is a new feature is individual account. So the authentication type you can able to select. So I will brief you about this section in a while. So now we'll focus on that. What is this interactive modes? So here there is a 4 interactive modes has been added. So meaning that server side static rendering, server side rendering, and WebAssembly rendering and auto. So it supports both server and WebAssembly. For our demo, we need both server and client side. So if I choose this particular server template, then I have to create one more project for the WebAssembly. So in order to demo both server side and WebAssembly, I am going to choose this auto render mode and interactive location. So you can able to add the interactive type either global level or per page per component. That is either that particular razor component is server side or client side, you can declare on top of that. So choose that per page per component and click on the create button. So now the project template has been created. Now we can able to see that there is a two templates has been created here. Blazor app demo session, Blazor app demo session dot client. So this particular template, whatever I have been selected here, it will be represent for the server side coding, and this is for the client side coding. So why we need these two project templates is any functionality you don't want to allow that functionality to be downloaded at browser level, you need to write at the server programming template. Any program which can be run at the browser level, you will write in this client programming template. I will repeat again. For example, when you are communicating with the database or database connection, all those sensitive configurations you cannot put at the client side, because this entire code will be downloaded to the browser and that code will be run from the browser, but you cannot share that sensitive information to the end users. So that's the reason when you are using a sensitive interactive with the server, you can use this particular server side rendering, and when you want to make a client side interactivity, you can use this client the client template. Perfect. So now we will examine that whatever the default files has been created and how they are helpful us. So we know that this particular thing will contains the all the dependencies, and this is launch settings or days, and it helps you on which configuration your application has to run all the profiles will be available in this launch settings. You can able to see that different profiles has been created: HTTP, HTTPS, IIS Express, and all the static files will goes to this www root folder, that is CSS or images, all those things will go to this www root folder. And here in the server side project template, there is the folder structure is components, layouts, pages. So under components folder, the layouts, so under layout folder, it contains all the master pages which will be reused, all the razor component. For example, this home page will be rendered at the body section, but the left navigation and the top bar, all those things will be reused by this layout. So layouts is nothing but a master pages which will be injected into all other pages when they are rendering. Perfect. This is the custom pages which is created: home page, weather page, and error page. So we'll walk through these pages in while, and we'll see that underscore import dot razor. So all your namespaces or NuGet packages will be added here, which will be consumed by the razor pages. When you are doing inline coding in the razor pages, you no need to duplicate your NuGet packages for each razor. When you add into the import dot razor, it will be automatically reflected into these pages automatically. So app.razor. So this is the root page when your HTML or razor component is rendering. So you can able to see that this is the root path where your other razor pages has been rendering. So first this app.razor root page will render, then subsequently these pages will render based on the navigation button click. So when you click on this home page, it will render this home.razor. So when you click on the counter, so it will render from the client. When you click on the weather, it will render this weather page. But here, remember that the left navigation and main layout will be rendered from these two pages for all those pages. So because they are the master pages for this entire application. And also here in this app.razor, there is one more component is added routes. So this particular component will help you to add the routing configuration information. So what this is telling is, for example, when you run this particular program, when you click on the weather or the counter navigation, this particular part, whatever the route view or route data, so when you run this, the route view will create a logical table and add that logical table, that configuration, the navigation configuration will add into the route view. So once it added into the route view, then when you click on the specific component routing, it will be identify which page it is trying to access and it will route to that. For example, if you try to access the page which not exist here, then by default it will be route to this particular page. Perfect. And app.settings is the server settings, like when you want to declare your database configurations or any configurations, you can use this app.settings. And program.cs. So in the program.cs, we need to see the code, whatever the new code being added from the earlier template, .NET 6 template to .NET 8, whatever the new changes been added here is, when you want to perform the different rendering modes. So that is this particular add razor component indicates the static server side rendering. So whatever the rendering modes has been introduced in the .NET 8 is static server side rendering, interactive server, interactive WebAssembly, interactive auto. So you might be very clear that what is the static server-side rendering is. You'll open your application in the browser and send a HTTP request to the server. So once the HTTP request has been reached to the server, the route view will identify what page the user trying to access, and it will get the response from that particular page, and it will return the HTML format response back to the browser. So that HTML will be rendered at the browser, and the end user can able to see the response over there. So here it is nothing changed what we are using in the MVC or Razor templates. What it was happening is we are sending the HTTP request and it is processed at the server, and that HTML response will be sending back to the client. Perfect. But you may think that what is the major difference between this ASP.NET Core MVC and ASP.NET Core Blazor is this particular Blazor template is configured for the component basis. So you can reuse those components at multiple places. So that is the major difference between the ASP.NET Core MVC and ASP.NET Core Blazor. Perfect. So we talk about this static server-side rendering. So now interactive server. So meaning when you are trying to access any page, so which communicate with the server and return the response. So we'll talk when you get the response, what will happen. For example, when you are interacting with a server may take some time to process this particular request. So maybe 5 seconds or 10 seconds it will take time to render that particular page. So until that, if there is no response, until that 10 seconds, if there is no response, the user feel that page taking long time to load. So that's the reason when you use this interactive server, the response will be loaded immediately, and when actual response is received, it will be updated. I will show you in a demo in a while about how the interactive server and interactive WebAssembly, it is nothing but what we use in our WebAssembly rendering mode, interactive auto. So this is the new feature. So I'll switch to the Visual Studio. So we talk about these particular render components. When you want to implement a static render, you minimum add this particular line of the code. When you want to implement a Blazor application with static render mode, minimum the line of the code you must add here is add Razor component. Also, the minimum the line of code you need to add to implement the rendering at the static server side is this particular line, map Razor component. So these particular lines, whatever the lines we are seeing, when you want to implement a server rendering, you need to use this middleware. When you want to implement add WebAssembly, you need to add this render mode. And also this particular line indicates that add a additional assemblies client dot imports. So in the client project file, if you see that there is a additional assemblies is there, additional NuGet packages or additional assemblies is there, we are loading because the client depends on these NuGet packages. So we are loading from that. Perfect. So this is the minimum required code when you want to run the Blazor application both server side and client side. So if you don't want to implement any client side, you can remove this particular services and this particular middleware. Perfect. Now we will run this application and see that how the rendering will works. So this home.razor, we did not add any rendering mode. By default, all these Razor components, whatever been added here is a static server side rendering. So if you run this particular application, the application is up, and now you can see that the home page get loaded, and here whatever the HTML is required to load this particular page we get through response. And when you go for a network tab and under the developer tools, so I'll just refresh this particular application. So here the page has been rendered and initial page has get rendered, and if you see any code being downloaded into our local browser, no code has been downloaded. Now you can able to see that, and there is a web socket connection has been opened to get interact with the server side. And now we'll see that this is about the static render code. Static render code is nothing but you'll send a HTTP request and you will get a HTML response. Now we'll see that the interactive server rendering mode. So this weather page is a interactive server rendering mode using the interactive server rendering. So when you click on this weather, what will happen immediately if you observe that when I click on that particular weather page, I'm getting immediate response is called loading, and when I created there is a DOM, existing DOM get updated. If you see that, open body and page. Now you can able to see this is the particular DOM which getting updated when you go to home. So same DOM get replaced here is updated here, and when we click on the weather, so what changes it is updating I want to show here is it is using the same DOM to update or to render the update from the pages. So it just updated only this particular article only. Remaining sidebar or the top navigation is not updated, only this article is updated. So what is happening here is same DOM, because the entire CSHTML or JavaScript files is not getting downloaded. When you go here, you can able to see only we got the response about this home page. We did not downloaded this CSHTML or JavaScript files again. So when you go to the weather page, so what is happening, only weather request get updated because it is using existing DOM, only it is identifying whatever the changes has been added to the page, it is updating only that changes only, it is not updating any other. So if you go and see that the weather .razor file, so what is happening here is it is using stream rendering. So what is meaning of this stream rendering is an attribute to indicate whether to stream the rendering of component at descendants. This attribute only takes the effect within render that supports the stream rendering. So what is the advantage of using this stream rendering is you will get the immediate response, or that page will load shows the immediate response when user send a request, and within the same DOM when the actual until that the application will wait to receive the entire response, until that same DOM will wait and to receive the entire response. When you go back here, when you see here. So also one more thing is, we are not creating a multiple WebSocket. Same WebSocket is still pending and been using until that request is completed. Perfect. So now one more change we can see is, in the client project there is a page get added is counter.razor, which is using interactive auto. So I'll give a small difference on that: interactive WebAssembly render mode and interactive auto. So there is a two render modes is there: interactive auto and interactive WebAssembly mode. So what will happen is, this particular WebAssembly mode will download the entire code into the browser, and it will render from it will run the entire application from the browser, meaning that what will happen is, .NET files and WebAssembly runtime will be downloaded into the browser, and it will run the application from there. But here the difference between the render mode reactive interactive auto is, first time it will render from the server, and second time onwards it will be rendered from the browser itself. Perfect. Now we'll go to this browser, click on the counter. Now you'll see that when you select this particular tab, WebAssembly tab, there is no code being downloaded, because only this particular Razor component or Razor page is using the client side interactivity. So for that we are using interactive auto. So this particular interactive is, it will render the communication with the server, and from subsequent request onwards it will execute from the browser. So when you click on the counter, see, the entire code, .NET DLLs, the entire .NET supported DLLs and WebAssembly runtime is getting downloaded into the browser. From there the page get rendered. Now you can able to see that. Go to the network and select all, go down, and when you click on it, so there is no request or WebSocket been generated. It is still using this WebSocket. Whatever it is created already, it is using that WebSocket itself. When you go to the home, so this particular WebSocket, whatever the WebSocket is completed already. So when you navigate to the another page, the WebSocket get closed. Until that it is still showing the pending, because when you are in the same file it is still showing pending. When I navigate to the other page, it is closed. So that's the reason, when you are implementing the client interactive application also, the Blazor can able to render very quickly. Perfect. In this video we look at how we can implement a CRUD operations in the Blazor applications. So what template has been introduced in that to implement the CRUD operations? So I'll close this. So server side, I want to implement that CRUD operations. So here what I will do, I'll select the template and add new scaffolded item. So when I select a new scaffolded item, earlier you can able to see two templates. One is MVC. So you can able to select MVC controller views using entity framework, or Razor, you can use Razor pages using entity framework. So there is a new option being added here, that is razor component using, so you can able to implement all the CRUD operations with the razor components. So this is the new option being added in the .NET 8 to implement the CRUD operations using the Blazor template. So I will select this razor component and click on add. So as usual, it will prompt the template, model class, DB context class, and data provider. So here you can able to choose what type of template you want to create. So I want to create all the operations like create, read, update, delete operations. Then I want to choose a model class. So here I don't have any model class. So first I will create a model class. So for that, what I'm going to do here is I will add a new folder and I will name it as models, and I will add a class called product. Inside that I will add a public id int product id, public string product name, public decimal price, and I will declare this as a primary key. So I will use the data annotation. That's it. So for this example, I'll just use those three properties only. Now what I want to do here is I want to repeat the same step, add the new scaffolded item and select the template is razor component using entity framework. So here you need to select the model class. So model class is product, and I don't have any DB context. I'll just choose the default, and database provider is SQL. Click on add. So the code is generating using this scaffolded item. So we'll wait a while until it completes the whole code generation. So the code has generated. Now you can able to see the changes here is under pages. You can able to see the product pages. So the CRUD operations get implemented, and here you'll find a folder called data. So this is the DB context folder, and uh, that's it. So now what we'll do here is we need to create the database. It might be in program.cs. It get added the DB context, so dependency injection get added. So now what we have to do here is we need to implement the migration. So I will execute those commands is add migration initial creation. So the migration code is generated. So now we need to migrate that whatever the database changes is generated, we need to migrate to the database. So update database. So perfect, it is done. Now we need to run this application. So default page loaded. Now we need to open that products. So the products page has loaded. Now you can able to create new. So product one, and the price will be, I'll add 1,000 and create. So you can create one more product. So product 2, and I will add 800. So all the operations you can able to perform similar to our MVC applications. So what is the change here is there is a new template being added, and that template, whatever the template you are adding here, is generated the CRUD operations in this in the pages. So earlier it is used to generate using CSHTML. So that's that time whenever we choose, we will choose this MVC uh, framework. So we used to choose this MVC controller views entity framework, or when you choose the Razor pages, we used to choose Razor pages using entity framework. But in the Blazor, since it is a component based and we need to reuse the components, so there is a new template been added to implement that CRUD operations. Perfect. This is about the whatever we get new changes in the implementing the CRUD operations. In this video, we'll discuss that how we can implement the authentication and authorization for the Blazor application. So in MVC or Razor pages, when you add a new scaffolded item, you will might have an entity called the identity. So you can add that identity, which will add the scaffolded for the login page and authentication and authorization behaviors. But here in the .NET 8 Blazor, there is no direct scaffolded item to add to the existing project. So meaning that I have implemented a new Blazor application without authentication. If I think I want to add to this existing Blazor application that scaffolded identity template, there is no way you can add. So when you want to implement a authentication, you need to add at when you are creating the application itself, or you need to implement that manually. That scaffolded will not get for the existing item. Hope this change will be included into the future versions when the Microsoft is releasing. But now we'll see a demo how we can add the scaffolded or generated code for the authentication and authorization. So we'll create a new project. I'll just close this solution. System is taking long time to load it. Okay, perfect. So now I'll create a new Blazor web app, and I'll just choose the default name. And here the authentication type. So authentication type, you can choose none or individual account. So for that, now I'm going to choose the new built-in feature called individual accounts, and I'll just keep the other options is same as it is whatever it is there, and click on the create button. So the project template is created. Now we'll verify whatever the changes has been generated in this particular whatever the files is generated in this server template. So here if you go to the components, there is a new folder is added. If you when we watch in our earlier created template, there is no account folder. So what is this account folder is, this account folder contains the pages of that authentication and authorization behaviors, which is default generated for code for to support the login. Perfect. But by right, what I feel is it should support for the existing application as well. But at this moment, the in .NET 8 Blazor, it is not supporting for existing templates. So that's the reason we have created a new project. So when you create a new project, when you choose this authentication type is equal to individual accounts, then this built-in code has been generated to support the login. So we'll run this application. So the application is up. Now you can able to see in the left navigation menu, there is a three option links get added. One is auth required, register and login. So when you click auth required, then it will navigate to the login page. So first what we do here is first we register an account, then you can able to perform the login. So I will register account, then I will call this as a test at gmail.com and I will give some password and I will re-enter the password and click on the register. So when we click on the register, it will navigate to the confirm the account. No breakpoint. Okay, perfect. So this error, whatever the error, it is indicating that we did not created the login tables, that tables we did not created. So that's the reason it is throwing the database operation failed exception, because when you are registering any user, you should have a database communication, then only you can able to log in with that. So by right, what you can able to do, you can migrate your entity framework using this command, or there is a button which provided by Microsoft, so you can click on the apply migrations. So no need to execute these commands manually. So click on migrations. So it is executing these commands for us. Now you can able to see here in the command prompt, it help us to execute or to create those tables. Now you can go here, entity framework, database, then it created a table called ASP.NET users, ASP.NET roles, and ASP.NET role claims, ASP.NET user claims. So all the tables, whatever the default table to support for this login, it has been created for us. So just a button click. You no need to execute those commands, entity framework commands manually also. That is a new feature which is added in the .NET 8. Now you go back here and click on login, enter that username and password, click on login, valid login attempt. So we'll try to register one more time. Perfect, it is registered now and confirm here. So thank you for your confirming email. Then you can go to login and register the user. Perfect. So once you registered and you log in, it redirect to the home page directly. So when you click on the auth required, it is showing that you are authenticated. What is your username is, this is the one.